Ooh, that looks tasty.
Welcome folks, Today the Hungry Gamer is back with another crowdfunding preview, and today we're talking about Honor's End from IV Games. And before I get started, please note that what you're seeing here is still in the prototype phase and is subject to change. Additionally, please turn on your Klingon subtitles because if I make any mistakes in the rules overview, that is where you'll find those corrections. Now what this game is this is an adventure game that can be played either in just straight up adventure mode, where it's just 3 fights and you're done, one-offs, or you can play through a campaign, and the campaign is broken down into a series of chapters. And in this prototype that I had the prologue, chapter 1 and chapter 2, and I believe that there will be 7 more. Now, for this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how the game works without breaking into any of the story here, but I'll just kind of open it up a little bit so you can kind of see a little bit of what's in there as the story is told. So instead I'll show you how to play the one-off mode. And I'll point out this game will be played between 1 and 4 players, and I'm going to be demonstrating how to play 1 player, but I will talk about the differences as I go. And what this game is, as I said, is an adventure game in which you'll be utilizing deck building, and this deck building will result in combos that you're playing. And there's a little bit of dice chucking as well, as you can see. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played and want to jump into my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this game is played. So what you see here is everything you need to play the solo game. If you were going to play multiplayer, you would remove this squire deck, and every player would have their own tracker here and their own small player board with their own starting deck of cards. Additionally, depending on player count, that tells you how many of these purple dice you have, how many of the black danger dice you have, then you always have all of the gray dice. And because these dice are casting a little bit of a shadow here, I'm just going to move them all off the screen and I'll bring them out as I need them. Now there's a few things you have to do at the beginning of the game to set up. First off, each player is going to take a basic starting deck, and to that deck they're going to add a single wound, which is something that will clog up your deck, a single hero, which kind of represents who they are, right here, and then a single advanced card, like so, and they will add all of those to their hand. Additionally, they will get to start with a single equipment, which I'll put off to the side here, and a single consumable, which I will also put off to the side right here. I'll just give this a quick shuffle, and I'll place it right here on my deck. Then what you have to do is you'll have a stack of various enemy cards, enemies 1, 2, and 3, and you'll pick one of each of them. There's my 3 and my 2. And these are going to represent the 3 encounters that you are going to have. And then you'll place your encounter like so, and you are ready to begin the game. And then the last thing that you do after you've placed your bad guys here is you take a look here and you see how much health they're going to have. I'll also point out that if you look all the way down here, it's very small. It has this little 1. That means this is for a single player game. And the setup is slightly different depending on how many players you have, and so just keep that in mind. And the last thing you're going to do is you're going to set all your trackers. The red cube will go to the bottom of the enemy track. The skull here will go to the bottom of your threat track. The yellow goes to the bottom of the monarchy track, and the blue to the bottom of the temple track. And then you're going to take your honor marker, and in the one-off games, you will set it to 8. Now you're going to lose the game if you ever run out of honor. Then you are ready to start the game. And so you'll start the game with 5 cards in your hand. And then you're going to proceed through all of the phases of the game. And the first phase is you're going to advance the enemy track. And on the first turn, things are a little bit different, so I'm just going to pretend that we're in the middle of the game. First thing you're going to do is you will advance the enemy track, which means you'll move this up 1 space. And that means you will also, if there is a skull here, move up the threat track. So we'll move up the threat track 1 space. Then, as we take a look here, we'll see what just got covered. In this case, I covered a +1 red. And in the final version, I believe these are going to be black to match these dice, but I will get 1 danger die. As you move further up, you'll see there's different things here. If I'd moved to this second spot, then I would get 2 of these gray danger dice, which I'll explain in just a little bit. Then you're going to take a look at what symbol is the red cube next to. In this case, it is next to the red and the 2 green daggers. Then we'll look down here, and the red means, it says right here, everybody has to discard 1 card. So I'll just take a single card from my hand, and I will discard this one right here. Oh, and I have a slight mistake here. I accidentally have 2 heroes in my deck, which I should not have. I suspect I just put back the hero and the wrong deck there. So now I'll grab this one right here. So I've discarded one card. And then the second one here is a single player takes a wound. Well, in that case, that's me, though. If there was more than one player, we would get to choose. And so I take another wound card from the deck here, and I place it here. Depending on player count, you have a certain number of wound cards here. And if you ever need to take some and you can't, then you take penalties over on this board. And now that I've moved everything kind of off to the side, we'll talk about the next thing that's going to happen. The next thing that happens is you distribute and roll dice. And that would be these danger dice right here. So I'll go ahead and roll those, and I will place them back up here. And I actually have all the different kinds of symbols that you can possibly get here, which are take a wound, meaning you get one of those wound cards, nothing, or lose honor. And there's also a lose 2 honor on here as well. Now, nothing's going to happen with this at the beginning, but at the end of the round, they might take effect over here. Then, if it was in the multiplayer game, whoever is the first player would get to share some kind of bonus with the rest of the table. And if they were to discard a card like this, then everybody around the table would get the bonus over here. In this case, take another play. Or a single player could take whatever this bonus is here, in this case, draw 2 more cards. And that'll make a little more sense in just a moment. Now, if you're playing the solo game, instead, you will draw one of these squire cards, which you simply will flip over, and you'll take the bonus that is right there. In this case, gain 2 temple resources, which you would simply mark right here on your board. And again, I will talk about what those do in just a bit, as well as I'll talk about these symbols on the bottom in just a moment. And I will place that right here on top of my deck so we can see what's going on. Then we go into all players play their turns simultaneously. And as I mentioned, there is that play symbol, and every player gets to do a single play. You play a card, and some cards let you play more cards. So I could play this card right here, and this arrow means then I could play another card. If that card had an arrow, I could go ahead and play yet another card. However, sometimes there's cards that do not have an arrow, which would end the play, and that doesn't matter if it's part of a chain or if it's your first card that you've played. And as you play your cards, you get the bonuses. So over here I have gain a shield, which means I could shield one of these bad things over here. So perhaps I decide to shield that loss of honor. Then I gain a monarchy resource, like so. Then I gain an inspiration die, which would go into my pool. I would go ahead and roll that. And in this case, I have a shield, which I could then spend to block another die. I'll also point out that if any time you shield one of these misses here that does nothing, if it's one of the black dice, at the end of the turn, it will actually go out of the pool. Otherwise, they all come back into the pool. But going back to what we had, we'll just say I did this and I spent it to shield that. Then over here, we have a wound, which is just clogging up my hand. Then over here, I have 2 rerolls and a shield. And for a reroll, I could reroll anything I want. I could choose to reroll one of these dice. I could choose to reroll one of these dice. It's completely up to me. And that may matter because sometimes the equipment that you get will react to different kinds of rolls. And that would actually be all that I could do. Now there are ways that I could have more cards, except now you'll notice there are these symbols down on the bottom. And you're able to activate those as well. And to demonstrate that, I'm going to put this card in instead to show how it works. You'll see down here, there are those 2 owl figures. And if I had in my hand another owl card, I could then turn the card upside down, tuck it under, and now I would gain that bonus. In this case, 5 damage, which I would then track right here. You can also use your inspiration dice to activate these as well, with a single star activating a single symbol. So I could activate this here and gain another die. I could activate this here, gain another shield. I could activate this one down here and just get rid of this card, which is to go back to the supply and stop clogging up my deck. And then there are also a double symbol, which I could use to say activate something like that. And there is also gain another play and draw a card. And another play simply means you can start another chain of cards. Then, after everyone has finished all of their plays, all of their rerolls, you move into the resolve phase. And what happens then is any of the danger dice that are still over here will activate. In this case, nothing would happen. But if, let's say, both of these were still over here, then I would lose 1 honor and draw another wound card. Then all of the gray dice would go out of the pool, only the black dice would remain. Then all players would deal whatever damage that they've accrued through their playing of cards, in this case 5. And I apologize, when I put this guy up here, I did not set his health, which is only based on what number is it pointing to, so it should have been at 15. So in this case, I've done 5 damage, so he would go down to 10 health. And then I have 2 Temple and 2 Monarchy that I can spend. And if we take a look on these symbols here, it tells you what you can get. So for spending my 2 Temple, I could move up to here, and that would allow me to get a new hero card that would go into my discard. And that would cost me 2. While my single Monarchy would allow me to come up here, cover this, and gain another consumable that I can use when I so choose. And you can go whatever direction you want, but you're always going at a diagonal. And as you go through the 3 rounds, things get more expensive and arguably better and better. Then you restart from the top, as this will move up, which will then move this up, give you more dice, do some kind of effect, and rinse and repeat. After you defeated the bad guy, then you move into the in-between rounds, where you'll wind up drawing 2 traits, which have something good and something bad on them. You pick one, and that'll be part of your deck moving forward. Then after that, you move on to the second boss. You take a look at where the symbol is. In this case, it's pointing up here to the 25 and says +5, so I will set this to 30. You reset this to the bottom and this to the bottom. Everything else there stays the same. Then you zero out everything on your tracker, and you are set to move on. If you defeat all 3 bosses, you have won the game. If your honor ever hits 0, then you have lost the game. And that's how this game works. So what do I like about this game? The first thing is I am thrilled that IV Games is kind of going in a different direction with this game, with something that is so very wonderfully made for the solo player and additionally for co-op play. So I'm very, very excited about that. And with that said, I think the aesthetic of the game is really good. Obviously the production, this is just a prototype, but the production on everything is just fantastic. Those dials are the perfect tightness, the way they move, just awesome. The character art is spectacular. Just love all of that. I also like the way that as you move through the different chapters, things get introduced into the game. Sometimes, now, as I said, I only had 3 chapters to go through, or 2.5 chapters, one being the prologue, but even towards the end, a new mechanic was introduced into the game. So I like where that is going, that more mechanics are going to be introduced, and every time you finish a chapter, even though I put everything back into the envelope so nothing could be seen in the playthrough there, in the rules overview there, I like that what happens is all of it just kind of goes into the decks, and now it's something that can show up for the rest of the game, be it in the continued story mode, or if it is in the one-off kind of adventures that you might be doing. I really like the way that works. It's very clean and simple, and as I said, very, very cool. Next thing I'll say is, I think the way that the deck building works regarding what you can play is pretty darn clever. I like this kind of riff on how Moonrakers works, how you can play your cards and you can do what you can do, unless you play the certain right kind of card that lets you play more. And so I like how you have the chaining of the cards together. That's very clever, that's very fun, but then the way that various consumables you can get, various character abilities, I didn't show any in the rules overview there, but often the ability that where you tuck something under is create a new play line that you're able to do. And I like the way that you're trying to find ways to draw more cards and then play more cards. It really, really works well, and I really find it clever and fun, and sometimes intensely exciting as you're chaining things together. Oh wait, no, if I just do this chain here, then I can take this one inspiration die that I have, and I was able to get that die because I got this really cool piece of equipment, and I got that piece of equipment because the turn before I was able to use all these different cards to get all this different temple resource, and I used that to move up, and I got a new piece of equipment, and now this is giving me the die, and now I can use the die to have another play, and then do this, and it can be really, really exciting, and sometimes you have all these cards that you're playing at once, and it's really, really cool. I also, even though I have only played this solo, so I should have been clear on that, I've only played this one solo, I love that it's simultaneous play. I think that is The best trend in board gaming the past few years is a lot of simultaneous play just to keep the game moving. I love those little trackers that everybody has. You track, this is all the damage that I'm going to do, at the end we're going to add it all up, boom, that's what we did to it. Just awesome the way that works. I like the way that you're buying things, you're kind of moving that tracker up, and you get significantly more powerful as you go through the game, and I do like that. I also like that you're spending those resources. Sometimes maybe you're getting new equipment, maybe you're getting new cards, new heroes are going to be joining you, but also you're getting honor. So basically you're getting life back. So it's a kind of interesting little balance of what you're going to get, but at the same time there's not some AP driven market of you trying to say, well, I'm going to buy this one, then a new one will flip out, and then maybe you buy that one. It's just, nope, you're going to move up, you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. And for me, I really do enjoy that. I think it makes it clean and quick and simple, and it makes, if you have followed my channel, you know what I hate most about deck building games is cards that all they do is let you buy another card. And there are cards that are just giving you that resource, but so often they're doing something else. They have the arrow that's going to let you play another card, or maybe at the bottom they have a tuck ability that's going to give you something really cool, or they have shields on there as well, or they also do damage. And so there's not a lot of cards that are just, I played this thing for a resource, and that makes me happy. They're still there a little bit, and you're still using it just to move up that track, but I find it so much less offensive than I do in a game like Dominion. If you're a Dominion super fan, don't come at me. I'm not saying anything about it other than I don't like Dominion because it's just about getting cards to get more cards. Anyhow, that's not what Honor's End is. So I really like the way that works. I also find that tucking ability intensely satisfying. I've already kind of mentioned a little bit, but it's really clever. It's a really clever way to use those other cards that you have in different ways. Maybe you do have one of those cards that's basically just use this card for a resource. Well, I can flip that thing over and use it to do some kind of activation. That's really cool. The way the inspiration dice work, I think, is fantastic. Sometimes you get to draw another card and do a play. Sometimes you're getting the shields that moves things away so you're not getting hurt. I love that you have to pay attention to defense as you're going through. Maybe it's going to just allow you to activate those tuck abilities. Awesome. That is awesome. Then moving on to what I just mentioned, I really do like the defense. The defense mechanic. It's just so quick and clean and simple, but it's really cool. I love that it has the ability to, if you roll that symbol on the danger die that does nothing, but you choose to defend that, suddenly that black die is going out of the game, so maybe you took a damage from a different die this turn, but now you have one less die moving forward. That's awesome. I think that, again, is really, really clever because it makes it a hard choice as you're moving through, because it's really, really rare, I found, that you have so many shields that you're just blocking everything over and over again. And if you do just have a bunch of shields that you're just blocking everything over and over again, then you're probably not doing a lot of damage. So all of that, I think, works really well. Now, talking about the story and the campaign, I do like the way it unfolds, and I like that each of the games is pretty darn quick. You move through these games fairly quickly, and I like that. It doesn't take a lot of reading that you're going to do. You just kind of zip on through. It's written like a play script instead of a big paragraphs. And at the same time, you do have some interesting choices that you have to make. Now, it's very clear. It says read all the results of everything. Pick what you like based on the rewards or based off story. But there are some choices that you have as you go through, and I like that. And the story so far has me interested in what's going to happen moving forward, and so not much more you can ask for than that. So what are my quibbles with the game? Well, the first thing is I love that artwork on the characters, though most of the other cards just have a kind of a basic little symbol on there, and I really would love to see more of that character-driven artwork because it's just so cool. It's so good. I wish I could see more of it. The next thing I'll say is on the wound cards, they have descriptions like broken jaw or twisted ankle or dislocated knee, all these different things, but they don't do anything mechanically. They clog up your thing a little bit, and it's something that you can play it, and then you can play more cards off it, and then you can tuck something to get rid of it. And there are different things you can get that reward you when you get rid of wounds. But I wish they were somehow unique beyond a different symbol at the bottom to get rid of them. Because since they are descriptive in what's happening to you, I wish it did something different every time you had one. Or just call them wounds and we can be done and move on. And to be fair, that's a pretty minor quibble, and it's more kind of a thematic thing for me, because I am getting some theme out of this game, to be clear. I just wish that the theme was more integrated to the mechanics right there. And then the only other thing that I will say is, so far in the first 2.5 chapters, and as something new was introduced mechanically in Chapter 2, I don't know that this is going to remain true, but as it is, the game is very much the same arc as you play through. You get different bad guys, and your deck is wildly different every time you play. I mean, wildly different. And as I played through the campaign, in 2 of them, of the stories, I was an overpowered melee powerhouse. Even at one point, I did something like 20 damage by myself in 1 turn. So crazy damage. But then another time, I was almost just blocking everything every single turn and just going clink, clink, barely hurting it and slowly whittling it down. So the variance in how the game plays out is different. But right now, it's just you're going to play these cards out, play as many as you can, track some stuff, buy a few things, move on, rinse and repeat. And so, while this is not a quibble, it is a what is going to happen moving forward with this. Because the one mechanic that got introduced in the last chapter that I had changed things up a little bit. It made things a little bit more exciting. If there are more of those coming chapter after chapter, that's going to make for, I think, a really interesting, varied, fun game every time you play through, because there's all these different things that are going to happen. If there's not a lot of that coming through, then the game's going to start to feel a little rinse and repeat. And I don't know what it's going to be, so I guess my quibble is just pay attention to what they're talking about on the campaign page. But there you have it, folks. That is Honor's End. I really enjoyed this. I really, really did. And I'm not the biggest fan of deck builders, as anyone on the channel knows, but this one I really did enjoy, and mostly I think that's because of the way you're creating this kind of tableau and chaining things together. It's not just, I'm going to play this and play this and play this. It's this requirement to chain things together and then flip the cards over or use the dice. It's very, very satisfying to play through each individual fight, each individual round. And I didn't even mention, y'all, you go through your deck a lot. You burn through your deck over and over. There's not a single game where I didn't get to play almost all of my cards multiple times. You know, the last card I got, maybe I only got to play once because at the very end of the game. But it does a lot of things that I think are really, really fun. You're burning through this deck. It's an interesting co-op. It's a beautiful prototype production. So the production is going to be great. It looks really good. And it does some stuff that I have not seen in a lot of deck builders before. So really, there's not much more that I can ask for. And since it's IV Studios, you know it's probably going to show up relatively quickly. So there you have it, folks. That is Honor's End. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with the timestamp so I can get that into the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.